Hey, I'm Jenny Rae, the Managing Director of Management Consulted, and I found myself in a pretty continual multi-day downward spiral into one-star reviews of consulting firms on Glassdoor. Now, part of this is entertaining because I realize that a lot of these come from a very first world entitled perspective, and it's just fun to laugh at them. Some of them were kind of real, and they get, a little cringe-worthy as I'm reading them, but no matter what, I cannot avert my eyes when it comes to reading these one-star reviews. So you can do it. Just go to Glassdoor, filter by one-star reviews. You'll see that almost all the reviews are 5 stars, glowing. We love the CEO. But this is where the real dirt is. So today I'm doing Deloitte, and I got some good stuff for you. One thing that I noticed when I was going through the Deloitte reviews, I don't think this is a sample issue, but as I was going through them, they are long. People have a lot of thoughts about the issues. And I don't know if that has something to do with culture or just like the passion, but anyhow, this is the first one. Billable hours is all that matters. Okay, first of all, concerning title, just from a grammatical perspective. But then the pros are benefits, benefits, benefits. Healthcare is great, vacation time, if you can take it, fitness subsidy, happy hours, etc. Whenever I read these pros, I'm like, what are you going to go on to complain about? I mean, what type of firm that has all of those things can be that terrible? But then the cons, you're just an employee to them. At the end of the day, most partners and managers only care about billable hours. You guys know how many employees Deloitte has? Like, yes, you are probably just a number. You actually are probably legitimately a number in their system. They ignore your concerns. I was verbally harassed by 2 managers on 2 different projects, and while some of the other managers cared, the partners ignored the issues. I mean, that's not cool, but what do you mean by harassment? Like, you were told that you weren't doing well, or you were actually harassed? There's a really fine line sometimes. So anyhow, that's kind of one thing. Here's another good one. So good pay, but the pay hikes are not great at all. Again, I think that's the definition of a first world problem right there. They do work in every industry and service offering. So if you know where you want to be and want some quick experience, this is a good place. Fantastic. And the reason that you go into consulting. Some of the cons, however, minimal upward feedback, no way to share feedback with leaders, which makes it a very top-down organization. Oh, guys, a lot of the illusion of upward feedback is that you get a voice in the matter. And sometimes it matters just a little bit, but the votes are made by the top. You got to recognize that from the beginning. No regard for employees, bad work-life balance, as projects are always sold cheap. That's interesting. I don't know if that's really true, but also kind of interesting. And then unfortunate project staffing system. No way to build up an appropriate network as the org is too large, and you end up doing work that you don't like just to keep your performance KPIs good. So I think that's actually pretty real. But again, in general, maybe not the intensity. This one, I think, is really great. Horrible firm who makes huge amounts of money without being socially responsible. And I also like the personification of the horrible firm here, who makes huge amounts of money, because it just really adds to the evil nature of Deloitte. Frankly, the client will pay the big bucks to get Excel lists and meetings in their calendars, but at the end, they will get an average outcome and disillusion. I think they mean disillusion, but I'm not sure. Anyhow, this firm does not care about the people who work for them. By the way, I can't even read this whole thing because it goes on for more than 2 pages, but they do say that this is a ruthless form of slavery. And they say something like, is it the Middle Ages of human capital? I think that's amazing. I do not think that it is the Middle Ages of human capital. Deloitte has one of the most liberal policies on, for example, paternity and maternity leave, and some other really advanced areas, but the Middle Ages of this capital. Also, put greedy people without ethics in charge and you get Deloitte. Yeah, that is really harsh. In addition, unless you were literally starving and they are the only ones who can provide you a paycheck, stay away. You have to read this whole thing because it's really worth it. Anyhow, this person has some legit animosity. In addition, this one, I worked at Deloitte. The pros, this is so harsh. The artificial smiles and insincere compliments. I was dying when I read that. How in any way is that a pro? It's so rude. Also, the cons are a lot of gossip and backstabbing. That kind of is fitting. And then partners and directors care about you until the moment you leave the place. So again, I'm not sure entirely how that's a con. If they didn't care about you when you were there, that would also be another issue. But anyhow, this is really funny. Paying people through experience and not with actual money is pretentious. Again, I'm not sure that that's entirely true. I'm pretty sure that they were paid every month. Also, I felt like the property of the company working here. We were expected to work 80+ hours per week and not complain. No overtime, by the way. Standard PS in salaried positions. People here also love to micromanage. Leadership is non-existent. No vision at all, nor an ability to motivate the workforce. Anyhow, it goes on and it's pretty intense. So enjoy reading this. This one, just like so cautioning, right? Don't sell your soul. That's what they say. The pros are, looks good on a resume, government experience, you may get lucky and land an easy project. The cons, listen to this. If you already have a good job, do not leave it to join Deloitte. Long hours, no work-life balance. Pay looks good, but with all the extra hours worked, your hourly rate is actually very low. The culture is cutthroat. All they care about is the money you make them. Management just wants to utilize you as much as you can. Mostly single, divorced, or people with no family or friends. That's so sad. Lots of competition. You can't take vacation as it will hurt your, quote, utilization. Kills your family, social, and personal life. Stress, pressure. The intensity, really, really interesting. Also, this one, senior consultant. I worked at Deloitte full-time, more than a year. Pros are the pay and sign-on bonus. Again, great pros. Cons, elitist attitudes and borderline racist at all levels. That's intense. Also probably something that we should talk about in a totally different way. And then this is, I think, the last one, but also pretty good. Hierarchical, top-down, weakness-based, exclusive, and intolerant culture. Harsh. Guess where this comes from? The human capital practice. That is intense right there. And then they say, here are the pros. Prestige of working for a Big Four consulting firm. Great. 2, I feel like I'm paid fairly, but it's actually quite low compared to what I made before when you consider how many hours I work. By the way, that is a calculation that every consultant does at some point. How much am I making per hour? They always do it in the week before the end of a project when they're working 80 or 90 hours and the numbers never look good. So just FYI, if you want to stay in consulting, never do that calculation. It won't make you feel good about yourself. If you want to leave, do the calculation. It'll make you feel entirely justified about going somewhere else. But then she actually goes on to do the calculation, which I think is fantastic and really helpful. You can see that she's learned a lot in the role. So she divides her annual salary by the number of hours per year, hourly number, and then takes the number of hours that she was working before by her previous annual salary. But then this is where it gets dark. Nobody seems to enjoy their work. I once asked a senior manager, of all the things you've done for Deloitte, what have you enjoyed the most? Her response was, I don't even think that way. I just work here for the money. Does that make you want to cry? She happened to be talking to me at 10 o'clock at night in between client meetings. Why work so many hours at something you don't enjoy? I feel like this person in human capital wanted to give a lot of hugs. The people in human capital did not seem to be excited about their field. Most of them would have preferred to work in another area, but were not skilled enough to get into strategy or tech. Yikes. I joined human capital to improve people's lives at work, but the people here are unhappy. I had a principal ridicule me for asking for a reasonable accommodation for a disability. Okay, not cool. Not saying that all of these are cool or cringeworthy. I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff in here. I've had several managers ask me to falsify my hours. This makes it hard to reach utilization. On the other hand, if you refuse to lie, it affects your performance rating. Okay, that's intense and probably something that should not be brought up on Glassdoor, but more like in an internal issue. I have to pay out of pocket without reimbursement for the privilege of working for one of Deloitte's offices. I don't know what that means. I'm guessing she means commuting expenses. And then experienced hires are not given access to the best projects because staffing is based more on personal networks than skills, qualifications, or interests. That is weird to me because if experienced hires have the best personal networks, then they should also get the best projects. Anyhow, lots of good stuff in these 1-star reviews. Overall, I think what it takes to work successfully at a consulting firm and to leave with honor is to say thank you so much for making my entire future career, for giving me really valuable skills and great relationships. It is possible that you come to a time when it's time to leave, and everybody on our team found that time. But anyhow, just be careful of some of these toxic thoughts. And definitely, if you're having them on a daily basis, don't stay in consulting, go do something else afterwards. But when you're there, make sure that you really enjoy the perks. It's something that a lot of people, thousands and thousands, actually millions of readers of our site would like to do every year. So don't forget that you have the privilege, even if some of the things are kind of big things. Hope that you enjoyed this video, and we'd love to hear more if you have actual experiences at Deloitte about your great and also your kind of crazy experiences there. Thanks again for watching.